These are kind of big. I don't think they fit. You need me to wear my own shoes, not somebody else's. I'm just gonna wear my shoes today. I don't need to wear those. You need me to wear my shoes today. That's what you need. Yeah. We all need to wear our own shoes and stand in our own space. What an incredible place to be here right now, Be Hope. What a power of the Holy Spirit. You know that thing that we have right now, that feeling that, something is happening. Oh, that's God in this moment. That's God in this place. Do not let it pass you by. Do not let it pass you by. Recognize that is exactly what that is. Oh, can we welcome everyone online and join us in Ironton today? Oh, yeah. We're so grateful for everyone who is here with us today. We're going to stay standing for the Word of God because we know that God's Word is holy, and we stand in reverence and awe of that. My first time up, I'm reading you one verse. Yeah, I knew that would be good. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12. Therefore, since we have such a hope, we are very bold. Yeah. Our hope is in Jesus. Our hope is in Jesus, and we can be very bold. Let's talk about that today. Let's pray first. God, oh man, you have met us here in a big way. You have graced us with your presence, and you have poured upon us in such a powerful way. God, I pray that you would open our hearts to all that you would have us to hear today. Speak through me, Lord. Let these words that I say be your words. God, bless us continually with your presence. We ask this in your name. Amen. Amen. You may be seated. What an incredible way to start this day. So powerful in everything that we are talking about. We are in our series, One Bold Move. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about, first of all, when you see God move. Have you seen God move in your life? Have you seen God move? I hope that you have. I hope that you have had the experience to see God move. Sometimes it's easier to see God move in other people's lives. We broadcast those stories in our little series bumper where we talk about David Bishop shares his story that God came in and moved in his life and changed him completely, a whole new person. Donnie Scarsbury talks about how his life was different. Actually, this weekend, Donnie Scarsbury is celebrating 1 year of baptism. Yeah, that's an incredible story. And then Steve talks in there about being in this place of misery, and God helps him up out of it. Like life is changed. And so I hope that you have had a chance where you've seen God move in your life. You've seen and experienced that moving in all of that. When I was preparing for this message, I was like, when have I seen God move in my life? I know that made me nervous. I was like, what is there? I was like, this isn't going to be good if I'm supposed to get up and talk about it. And if I don't have any real life experiences, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I paused for a few minutes and still didn't think of anything. And then I was reminded that when I was a children's pastor, I would always explain God moving like the wind. And it was this easy parallel, this easy correlation, what I would be able to say. Like, you know how you can not see the wind, but you can see the effects of the wind. Like if there's been a big storm, all the branches are down. And if you're out and you see all this wind and it's like, oh, that's great. You can see all that. And then sometimes it's like subtle and little things. I have on our back porch, I have a wind chime, and I love a good wind chime. My dad overdoes it. He has like 20 on his porch. That's too much. That's like, too much, Dad. But for one wind chime, it's just beautiful. And you can, when the wind blows and when it gets really loud and you're like, ooh, something's coming. But then there are those days when it's like still and you're outside and you're like, oh, there's nothing moving. Then all of a sudden this gentle something and the winds begin to chime and you're like, oh yeah, something's moving, something's happening. And God moves in our lives sometimes in big, massive ways, and sometimes in those small ways. And then sometimes we feel like we don't ever see it, or we're like, well, I really haven't noticed it for a real long time, which is where I was. And so I'm like, I haven't really seen God move. I know, I'll ask the people I work with. Partly as a test, like surely people who work at a church should see God move, right? Partly, we'll see. Anyway, so my husband, JC, was walking by, and I was like, JC, have you seen God move in your life? And he was real quick, you guys. That was good. He was real quick, and he said, yeah. He said, I've become very cynical. And he said, I've done this job for a really long time, and I come in and I do my job, and I know what's going to happen on the weekends. And I gotten to a point where I was like, oh, well, this is just what we do. This is how we do it. Oh, they're going to say that. That's going to happen there. That's going to. And he goes, I realized I was real cynical about everything. He said, so I prayed. He said, God moved in my life, and I began to dream again. And I was like, oh, that's really good. Maybe that's a fluke. Let me ask somebody else in my office. See if, it really did. And so I asked Haley. And I said, Haley, come in here. She thought she was in trouble, but she wasn't. And I said, Haley, have you seen God move? And she said, yeah. Again, real quick. You guys have good staff here. Real quick. She was like, yeah, in the last 6 to 8 months, there's been a lot of turmoil in her life, a lot of unsettling and a lot of things changing. And she said, it's been really difficult, but in the midst of all of that, there's been this deep sense of peace. And I know that God has been moving in my life because I normally wouldn't have peace, and I have it. I was like, wow, that is really good. I need to stay with you people more often because obviously God is moving. And so today we're going to look at, we have to recognize when God moves in our lives, because today the title of our message and what we're going to talk about is Before God Moves. What happens before God moves? Typically when God moves, or when something is getting ready to happen in your life, there's this disturbance, there's this unsettlingness, there's this, something just isn't right. And so before God moves, there's this thing that happens, and the scripture talks about several different things. So I want to read some to you, and so that we can look at what happens before God moves. We're going to start in Exodus 3. I know, right here. It's my age. I can't help it. But I got to put these on. In Exodus 3, this will be familiar. We'll talk about it. Exodus 3, verse 7, it says, the Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I've heard them crying out because of the slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them out of the land into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Pezerites, Hivites, Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people of Israel out of Egypt. This is God talking to Moses. This is Moses at the burning bush. And so Moses is getting ready to be called by God and to go and rescue the Israelites out of slavery. And he is getting ready to do, and God's getting ready to move in this powerful way. You see, the Israelites didn't ever mean to be in slavery, but here they are. You see, they began as a family clan that came down to stay with Joseph, who was second in command to Pharaoh, and they began to grow. God loved them and blessed them, and they grew and grew as a family. And Joseph died, and that Pharaoh died, and here are these Israelites in Egypt, and they got to be too many, and Egypt got scared, and they're like, nope, slavery for you. And so he enslaved them, and for 400 years, they were enslaved. And in this passage where we read that they were in misery, they were in this place of misery, they were oppressed, they were being beaten down, and they were oppressed, and they cried out to God, and he heard them. You see, before God moved and brought Moses to save all of the Israelites, there was a state of misery. There was this place where it wasn't going well. There was this place where they were oppressed and they were miserable. You know what misery is? Discontent. You ever been miserable? Not because Purdue lost or because of your bracket being busted or because it snows in the spring. Not that kind of misery, but real misery where you're overwhelmed with life. Real misery where circumstances or choices that you have made in your life have caused you to be in a place of misery, to be in a place where things are not going well, to be in a place where things seem like everything's crashing in on you, in a state where everything seems just miserable, is where they found themselves. And so they cried out to God, and he heard them. See, they stayed in misery for a really long time. They were in this state for 400 years. And we think, why? Why would they do that? Why didn't they just call? Why didn't they just say? Obviously God heard them. He loved them. But yet we stay in misery. Where do you think that phrase comes from? Misery loves company. We get stuck in the state of misery and we bring our friends. We're like, come on, it's miserable here. You'll love it. I got drinks. Come on, it'll be great. Stay with me here. Just be miserable with me. It's okay. And we do that. And we stay in this state because it becomes easy for us to adopt a bad theology there. You see, we get in this state of misery and we're like, oh no, I'm here because God's punishing me. I made poor choices in my life, so I have to live in this miserable life. Yep, that's exactly right. That's not who God is. We get in this state of misery and we stay there and we say, well, God's just forgotten about me. I'm just lost. I'm meant to be here like this because he forgot all about me. That's not true either. But it's real easy to believe those things when we're surrounded in misery. When we're stuck in this place that seems just miserable, it's so easy to say, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what it is. I'm supposed to be here because I made poor choices. Yep, that's what God does. That's not who God is. The Israelites cried out to God and he heard them. The Bible says in that passage that we just read that God heard them and he sent somebody in to rescue them. He sent a way out for them. He sent Moses to them so that he could help them out of this misery. And they didn't like Moses at first. They're like, what? Why? We're okay here. We got to work for free and we're beaten, but it's not bad. Why? How often do we pass by our opportunities to get out of something because we're like, it's okay. I'm used to it now. You see, before God moves, there's this place that we can be in. But we're never meant to stay in that place. We're meant to go through that place. We're meant to pass through it and receive the help that is around us. Because that's what God did when he called Moses. He said, hey, Moses, I've heard the cry. I've heard them. I need to help them. And God, I need you to be the one to do that because God loved them. He did not want them to stay in misery. He loved them. He loved them from the very beginning, just like he loves you and does not want you to stay in a place that is miserable. Does not want you to rest on theology that's really bad that says, God is making this happen because I deserve it. God has forgotten about me. It's too much. He can't handle this. He's got too many other things to think about. That's not who God is. That's not who he says he is. He sends help when we're in misery. He hears our cries of distress and gives us a way out of it. We have to be bold to find it. We have to be bold to recognize that God is moving Because God is always moving. God is always working towards good. And we have to recognize that if we're in misery, then good is coming. And we have to hold on to what God is calling us to. That's what we have to recognize. But there's more. Wait, there's more. There's more things that we can be reminded of. In John chapter 11. John chapter 11, Jesus is with his friends at this point. And you may recognize this one as well, but let's see what happens. In John chapter 11, verse 32, it says, when Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and she said, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they replied. And Jesus wept. And when the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to the tomb, and it was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. Take away the stone, he said. But Lord, said Martha, the sister of the dead man, by this time there's a bad odor, for he has been in there 4 days. And Jesus said, did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God? Jesus is friends with Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. He's been friends with them for a while. He has had dinner at their house. They've been together. They've traveled. And Lazarus gets sick and dies. And Jesus isn't there. But when he comes back, he meets Martha and Mary, and they're sad. They're weeping. They are so heartbroken at this time. Their brother has just died. And it's difficult. Have you ever lost somebody you loved? Have you ever lost somebody even with the promise of heaven? Even if you know that they're in a better place, there's just a sadness. There's just a deep hurt. There's just something about it that is just painful. And you weep and you cry. Grief is this powerful emotion. You don't have to lose a loved one in order to experience grief. You can experience grief when you lose a relationship, when you lose a friendship. You can experience grief when you lose a job. You can experience grief when you lose the expectation of what you thought was supposed to happen and it didn't. And you can live in this grief, in this sadness. And it can be a place that is just so heartbreaking. And do you know what Jesus does when he finds Mary and Martha and the other Jews that are with them? They're weeping and they're crying and they're so sad. Jesus wept with them. He sat down beside them and he cried with them. There was a time a few years ago when my mother passed away. It was probably one of the hardest times in my life. We had other things in our life going on. It was just difficult. And there are these times where there just are no words. And I had friends who would just come and sit with me, who would just come and be with me. And there's something about just having someone that you love be with you that can make the difference. They don't have to make things better. They don't have to say the right words. They just need to be. And that's what Jesus did. He was there with them. And he wept. He felt deeply with them. You see, in this time of grieving, in this time when things are not as we want to, we can grieve and we can weep. And Jesus will be with us. Grief is one of those things that I can get lost in pretty easy. Especially when things don't go my way, or when I thought it was like this and it goes that way, and I'm like, oh. And I have to go that way. And I'm like, oh, I really want to be here. And I'm not, I'm here. And so you grieve the loss of what was. And I can get lost in that place and I can be like, God, why didn't you fix it? Why didn't you change that? Like you have the ability, you could have made it go here and you went here and I don't like it. And I can get lost in the place where I can say, God, like, did I not pray enough? Was I not close to you enough? Maybe I didn't tithe enough. That must be it. I just get told to say that at church every time. Bring that up. Just teasing. But we can get to that place where we question God in our grief, in our sadness, where we can say, you could have fixed it all, but you didn't. Why didn't you? And so we can stay in this place of grief. We can get to the place of grief where we can go, you know what? I'm done. I'm done feeling. I'm done loving other people. I'm done with that kind of thing. I'll be fine. I don't want to go through this again, so I'm going to protect myself. I'm not going to feel anything anymore. That's good and healthy. That's exactly what I'm going to do. It's easy to do that, We make those things. And so we stay in the state of grief because we're like, nope, not feeling anymore. It's good. And then God moves and we're like, not feeling it. Don't want to. I could get hurt again, not going to. So we stay in that place. We're like, not opening up. It's going to happen again. Can't stand it. We stay there. You see, that's not what God called us to do. That's not what he told Mary and Martha to do. He sat with them in their grief. He wept with them. He shared in that. And then he said to them, if you believe, you will see the glory of the Lord. He said, I told you, if you believe, you will see the glory. He raised Lazarus from the dead. He changed it for them. He said, if you believe, you see, in our grief that is real, that is honest, that we will feel that sadness. Life will happen and we will feel it and we will grieve losses, but we can't stay there. You see, God is still moving, and when we believe, we will see the glory of God. We will go through that to see God move. That's what he said. He goes, hey, I'm right here with you in this grief. I'm right here with you through all of this. I'm right here with you. But if you believe, then you will see the glory of God. And that's what he reminded them, not to be stuck in this place. Before God moves, sometimes there's grief. Sometimes there's weeping. Sometimes it's difficult. But before God moves, there can be weeping. But God is going to move. And that we can experience the movement of God. We can be a part of it when we believe. When we trust God for it, when we step into what he has called us into, when we are able to move forward into it, then we too can see God move. He can move in our lives. He can allow us to feel again, to recognize that, oh, no, it's okay. We'll be okay. We'll continue to be okay, and we'll be stronger through it. That's what God told us. That's what he reminded us for. That sometimes before God moves, there's weeping. Sometimes before God moves, there's more. In Mark chapter 14, verse 32, it says, they went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, sit here while I pray. He took Peter, James, and John along with him and began to be deeply distressed and troubled. My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death, he said to them. Stay here and keep watch. Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane. This is before he's going to be crucified on the cross. We don't often think of this point of Jesus' life, but before he goes to the cross, before he's killed on the cross, and then he's resurrected and brings us new life, there's a decision that he has to make. And it's in the Garden of Gethsemane. And he takes his disciples up there to go and pray, and he prays. And he's deeply distressed, and he's overwhelmed. The Bible said his soul is overwhelmed with the decision that he has to make. He has to make this decision to follow what God has laid out for him. I will never make that decision in my life. We're never going to make the decision to save the entire world. We're not. But we're going to make decisions in our life that are overwhelming. We're going to have decisions in our life that are going to be so hard that they're going to seem overwhelming. Like, do we take a new church in Florida and move our family there? Too soon? Okay. We don't have to talk about that one. But we're going to make decisions in our life that will change everything. Maybe it is taking a new job. Maybe it is changing a friend group because they're leading me in a place I don't always want to go. Maybe it's the decision of deciding for your kids what school is best for them. Maybe it's the decision of what school will I go to? Do I go to a new school? Do I date this person? Do I not? Do we get married? Decisions happen all the time in our lives. And sometimes decisions can be so overwhelming that we get paralyzed, that we just stop, that we don't do anything. For me, that's what I do. When the decisions become overwhelming, I'm like, let me step right here. And then that decision can go away, because if I don't think about it, it just goes away, right? Yeah. How's that working for you? It's not. These decisions are things that we have to make. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane and the decision is overwhelming, do you know what he prays? Not my will, but yours, God. He said, not my will, not what I want to do, but God, what you want me to do is what I'll do. And sometimes in this overwhelming place, you see, God says, hey, I know decisions are hard, but come on, we can get through this. Jesus walks through that decision making. He doesn't leave you alone. You see, that's the whole point of God's will for your life, is that he has something for you. He has something specifically for you that he wants you to live out your very best life. And we get caught up in the decisions. We get caught up in the making sure we have everything laid out exactly perfectly. Okay, if this, then this, then this, then this. Okay, that's plan A. Then this, then this, then this, then plan B. Okay, I got it. So I'll make this decision. We'll go exactly right. When God's like, hey, I got a plan for you right here. And what if your decision became, God, not my will, but yours? God, show me your will for my life and let me walk in it. Let me be bold enough, God, not to be overwhelmed with making the right decision, but to be trusting of you in all my decisions. God, what if I recognize that my bold move is to step into what you have for me? To not be overwhelmed with everything that comes in life, but to recognize, God, that you will carry me through this. You see, what's important for us to understand in all of this is that before God moves, there is this disturbance in our life. Before God moves, there's this thing that comes around us that begins to weigh heavy on us. There's this thing that we begin to step into that doesn't feel right, that isn't comfortable, that is like, oh. And if we can recognize, if we can begin to see that before God moves, there's going to be something. Maybe it's misery. Maybe it's weeping. Maybe it's a sense of being overwhelmed. If we can recognize that, then we can step through it and we can go to the side where God is moving. If we can begin to recognize that there's going to be a disturbance before God moves, then we can move through it better. We can trust God. The Israelites, when they cried out in misery, God heard them. He loved them. He never stopped loving them. He loved them from the very beginning. He provided a way out for them. He didn't stop. He said no. And it went on, and Moses had to do all these tricks and all these things. It's an incredible story. You should read it. He had to do all of these things because God loved them, so he didn't want them to stay in misery. Jesus sat down and wept with Martha and Mary because their brother was gone. In your grieving, in your sadness, God is with you. He is with you there. But he says, if you believe, you will see the glory of God. We have to believe and trust that God has so much more for us. We have to know that God has something better for us. And so we need to be able to recognize that we can come through this to see God move. We can come through the hardship. We can come through the difficulty to see God move. What if we approached it so differently? What if we said, misery, yeah, that means God's getting ready to move. What if we went, oh, weeping and sadness, yes, God's getting ready to move. Here we go. Buckle up, I'm ready. What if we were in this place of overwhelmed into this decision and we went, oh, yeah, here we go, here we go. What if we experienced life that? What if that was our bold move, that we stepped into all that God had because we're like, oh, God, you got something incredible for me. You got something ready for me. You got something, God, and I'm going to go through it with you till we see you move. Till we see you move, God. We're not going to be stuck. We're going to recognize that God gave us this incredible example in the Bible. He gave us these stories so that we could see God move. We could see him do these miraculous things. And we could go, oh, that's for us. It's not just this book for us to go, wow, that's a great story. No, it's for us to live it out. It's for us to say, oh, God, you move in miraculous ways. You do incredible things. And God, you're faithful. You have said again, in all these circumstances, God, it looked misery, but you were with them. It looked troubling, but you showed them a way out. You sent somebody, God, to rescue them. God, we can trust your will to make the best decision. Do you know that scripture we read at the very beginning? Yep, it's important right now. Therefore, since we have such a hope, we are very bold. We have a hope in Jesus. We know that Jesus is with us, that he loves us, that he will carry us through. We can be bold in all things. We can step boldly through these things because we know that God has proven again and again that he wants nothing but the best for us. And he wants you to step into where he's moving. And he wants you to recognize these things, that when it gets disturbing, when it gets heavy, when it gets hard, God is moving. And I want to be ready for it. I want you to be ready for it. Oh, man. I don't want you to get stuck in the place where you're like, this is too hard. God forgot me. He's not here with me. He's not doing anything new. I don't want you to ever be in that place. I want you to be in the place where you recognize it and say, God is doing incredible things. God is doing something new, and I am going to step into it. I want you to be excited. I won't be. The next time I'm crying, I will be reminded, oh, I'm excited for this. This is great. But I do want to be reminded that, oh, God, I'm holding on because this is my sign that you're going to move. And now I want to be ready for it. I don't want to be lost in it. I began this whole sermon and I said, I hadn't seen God move. I was like, where has God moved in my life? But I gotta tell you today, I gotta tell you about this very weekend. This week on Tuesday, I started getting sick. I had bronchitis. Tuesday through Friday, down, nothing. I'm like, oh, I can still do this. It's good. I can still do this. And I came in last night and I was like, coughing, hacking my lung up. But do you know that every time I have stepped on stage this entire weekend, I have not coughed once? Yep. That's not me. That's not me. That is not me. Because I sat right down there, tried not to sing. I couldn't help it. Coughed 10 times till I stepped on the stage. Because God has a word for you. Because God wanted you to hear something today. Because God wanted you to be bold and to know that what you're going through, man, you got to be looking for God to move. You got to be looking to say, okay, God, where are we going with this? How are we getting through this? Because you are going to move and you need to be bold to step into it, to recognize it and to stand up and claim that God is God and He is for you and you will continue to be bold and be strong.